Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Over the rainbow, gotta let it go. Fast to finger down. Stars tonight together. Here everyone is singing.
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate for July 21st, 2024. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling podcast feed or on our own dedicated Open the Voice Gate feed on all podcast platforms and applications. You can follow us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. If you'd like to donate to the show, click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site. You click the red box to sponsor this podcast, and you can set up a one-time or reoccurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I am one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears. Joining alongside, as always, our co-host, Kay Slow, and it's right off the heels of the 25th anniversary show, Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival 2024. It's in the books, Case, and I could at least say, from my side, did not go down at all the way I expected. What were your big takeaways, and how are you doing today?
I'm okay. You know, it's the most wonderful time of the year for us. It's the busiest day of the year, and by the time most people hear this, I don't think my written review over at voicesofwrestling.com, where I'll go more in depth with some things and less in depth with others that we'll cover in great detail here. I don't think that'll be up just yet. Aiming for Tuesday for that to be out this year. Kind of fell a little bit behind in that today with some moving stuff that I had going on. But anyways, you know, not the show I expected. I mean, I did not publish predictions. I know you did. But had I published predictions, I would have had the result wrong of every title match and the opening match. And that is the matches that mattered on this show. So not what I was expecting, but off the bat, a better show than last year, I thought.
You know, I think you had such a emotional kind of face turn happen at the end of Kobe World last year with the end of the cage match and Luis Monte, and that kind of served a purpose that did not necessarily happen at Dead or Alive with not having a cage. Like, you kind of moved it and had that sort of moment. I don't know necessarily how much I would do I compare that moment with YAMATO breaking down in the ring, declaring that he will do what he can to make sure that Dragongate lives for another 100 years and he'll die in the ring. I don't know if there's like a one-to-one comparison to that, but match-wise, I was really happy with everything, even though the only title match I got right was, it was very clear to me that there was no way that Gold Class was going to win the Triangle Gate. That was the only one that I got right. So I'm batting 250. So would that, I think that would put me like before cleanup in Texas right now. So I'll go with that.
Well, look, you know, obviously we're going to rave about the Twin Gate match. We're going to talk a lot about the Brave Gate match. I personally, and I don't know where you stand, we haven't talked about this show at all, I want to rave about the Triangle Gate match, but in terms of moments and in terms of what people are going to take away from this show, it was more obvious last year. You're right. The turn of Monte, the build of that, the stipulation, the fact that they really delivered on that stipulation. That's a big moment there with a lot of just stature behind it. It was an over the top, in your face sort of thing that is obviously going to be remembered from here on going forward. I don't know about you, and this is an odd thing to say as somebody that doesn't speak the language, but watching the show closing YAMATO promo on the 25th anniversary, this felt like a moment to me. This felt like something where, look, I wanted Ben to win. I thought Ben would win. I also think we all need to shift focus here and realize that, you know what, YAMATO winning was probably the right result. It was an exciting match. I think most people actually like the main event better than I did, but it's still, even where I stand on it, exciting match. Very, very great. But oh my God, the show closing promo from YAMATO that was 15 minutes long. Let's not discount that as not being the moment that people take away from this show, because you know what? It was 25 years of Dragongate this year. YAMATO has now not only a 1 Dreamgate lead on Yoshino and Shingo, who also have 4 Dreamgate reigns. He came in looking for number 6. He's now a 6-time Dreamgate champion. He's the most decorated wrestler this company has ever seen. He's won everything there is to win outside of the Bravegate belt, which he challenged for once and lost to Pac. He's won everything relevant there is to win. And he poured his heart and soul into not only the main event, but into the post-match promo, and we can't discount that. And I see a lot of people down on YAMATO, and I don't know. I get it. YAMATO's not my favorite wrestler of all time. I certainly have had my issues with him being the Dreamgate champion or winning the Dreamgate championship at certain points while watching Dragongate and or doing this podcast. This feels like, since I've been watching, so you've got 2016, you've got 2021, and you've got 2024. This is the most on board I've ever been with YAMATO as champion. I am into this. He won me over. This was the right decision. 25 years of Dragongate, and YAMATO can still go. This isn't Muto winning at a Noah show. This isn't Tanahashi winning at a New Japan show. This is YAMATO, who was fucking great. He had a great year last year. He's been great this year. They told a story to him getting this title. It was a logical story, and it paid off. And you know what? I'm all for it. I am into this, and we cannot discount that show closing promo as a moment on this show.
I feel like when we look at moments and talk about Dragon System history, that I forgot who mentioned this in the Discord. I've been mostly offline today, but someone made a mention of the Mochizuki Shima kind of soft reset going on through Blood Warriors and Junction 3 and use this as like a point of comparison. And I kind of, there were moments in the promo that, and especially after the kind of match where this was Benkei taking essentially 85% of the match, smothering YAMATO in a very fascinating manner, not necessarily doing this as like a smothering match as one would think that you would think from like a just strong style or a grapple heavy match. It was just very much like ground him down and nothing was affecting it, and YAMATO was able to come through that. I just kind of feel like in a way we look at where Dragongate is and what it's at as a independent company in 2024 and after 25 years of ownership. And I think that you look at the crowd and sometimes you have to go with the person that everyone identifies with the company. And that's kind of the decision that now in retrospect, it's like, yeah, given everything and looking at the house and everything around it, especially the promo and not to mention the special video that they did for the 25th anniversary after the show, it felt right now that the right choice is YAMATO, and we have to see now as it's an uncertain schedule for the remainder of the year. It's probably a situation where, yeah, you want to not necessarily go like, yeah, Ben could be at the forefront there, and that's not necessarily the whole Shima Mochizuki kind of issue that happened 12, 13 years ago, but instead you have someone that's like, yeah, Yamato, we need someone at Dangerous Gate to in Yokohama, since we're not in Oda, we feel more safe with having Yamato there. And wrapping my head around that and that logic, I'm much more fine with this decision here tonight.
So I'll throw this to you first because you're the better historical mind for this than I am. But I'll weigh in after you do. I get the feeling, and I could be wrong, but I get the feeling that the discourse from this show that will exist this week, and it will be, more muted than most Kobe Worlds, because I'm hearing reports that the G1 is back, and DDT had a very good show this week, and Noah is still drawing people's interest. I get that, but the people that don't normally watch Dragongate, they're going to watch Kobe World. I get the feeling that the takeaway is going to be, welp, the young guys failed. They went back to Yamato. Dragongate's in trouble. They don't have any stars. Do you at all feel that this is mirroring where Dragongate was at 2009, 2010, 2011, where you had your first attempt at Shingo and Hulk and Yamato and Doi and Yoshino being, what was the big five that turned into the big six with Tozawa, being stars, and it's not that they outright failed. They didn't keep up with Shima and Mochizuki in the same way that maybe they had hoped. So they go back to Shima and Mochizuki, and then you know what? By 2013, Yamato's ready, and Yoshino's ready, and Shingo's ready, and now you've got Tozawa in the mix, and everything was okay. You actually entered a glory period for the company. Do you see this mirroring where Dragongate was at 15 years ago at all?
I think the difficulty is just like, in a lot of ways, it's so much more difficult running a wrestling promotion right now than 14, 15 years ago. And that's why, in a lot of ways, it's less a statement of failure. I feel like I don't think that you can make any kind of determination of Ben K's title run or him on top because of this one number. He had the belt for under 50 days, and this was the only defense. And I don't think you can make a determination there. I do think that there is the tendency, and it's not just Dragongate with Yamato, and Yamato being the safe hand. Like, essentially, the only record that Yamato does not have in the Dreamgate division is combined defenses. And who's to say that he won't just rattle one off on this reign and crack that record too?
This was going to be one of my follow-up questions. Yeah. Is this going to be a run at Shima from 2011 to 2013?
I don't think with his age you're going to want to do that, just because you have people like Shun Skywalker still under the age of 30. You have Yoshioka about to return, and I wouldn't want a Yamato key hunting title run to kill off what is the opportunity cost there. You would have the situation of okay, Yoshioka versus Yamato. Oh no, we're committed to the Yamato cleaning up the history books. I don't know if you want to tie yourself up like
It'd be tough. But go on. I cut you off. You were talking about the big six and how it might relate to now.
I think that there's so many different factors that kind of come into play with how 2024 is different than 2012. It's just not only because of the economic difference. I mean, everyone I looking around at the business, no one on this big show day that's not a holiday. Marine Day was last week. No one had a good number today. You had New Japan in Osaka. You had Dragongate in Kobe. DDT, I don't know necessarily how to judge that number. But I just kind of think that with the way that the industry is going, it's more of a statement of the realities of that than a reflection of the Big Six. I mean, I don't know how really with a title match like this, you kind of have to run this can be any sort of indictment against Benkei with this in this kind of scenario. Am I wrong in my thinking with that? It did should Benkei carry the weight on this a little bit? Because I'm kind of in a way looking at what all is happening around Case, and it's just I don't know if New Japan's having such an awful second night of the G1 climax, is it really Benkei's fault problem that Dragon Gate's number was pretty bad this year? I don't know.
No, I don't. I don't think it's been. I think right now there's a hard ceiling with Dragon Gate, and you're seeing it take place here because in the build to this show, I don't know if I would have changed a thing. I think the three biggest matches this company has are Bin and Yamato, and Shun and Yamato, and Shun and Bin, and they went with one of those three, and Shun was in a super hot match himself, a match that would have got me to come to the building had I lived in the country. It's one of those deals where I think they put their best foot forward. They didn't have a special gimmick match, and they didn't have a special attraction. And I will always go back to what I was told directly from within the company last year after a super positive Kobe World number with the cage match and with Hiromu was, all right, maybe next year we do it without the cage, but we do it with a special guest, and we hope it's a good number. And then maybe the year after that, we can go back to being, Dragon Gate proper Kobe World, even though historically, this is actually a rarity where they've had no special guests. But historically, they've always had people filter in and out for Kobe World. But this was pure and proper Dragon Gate, no outsiders, no special gimmick matches, just the 4 title matches is the big things here. And then obviously the 25th anniversary match that I want to talk a ton about because it was a very moving display, I thought. But I don't know if it's an indictment of Ben as much as it is, again, I think it's a systematic issue in Japan right now. There's no one. I mean, New Japan, I get it. I think New Japan is very slightly trending upwards. I think if I was in the All Japan locker room, I would be a little excited. I certainly wouldn't feel that way in Noah. I wouldn't feel that way in DDT. In Dragon Gate, it's like, well, some days I feel good, some days I don't. And this is one where, you probably left Kobe World Memorial Hall looking at your feet a little bit going like, God, I just can't believe there weren't more people in the building, because I thought they had a really nice build to this show. So no, I don't look at it as an indictment of Ben. I look at it as like, hey man, it's a depressed economy and there's no one in Japan right now, again, outside of what we talked about with Jay last week of the local Saito draw that they are, the Saito brothers in All Japan, where you can go, wow, that person is moving business. I don't think that's Ben. I don't think that's on Kakuta. I don't think that's on Strong Machine J or Shun or whoever else, whoever you want to point the finger to. Find me the person that is making buku bucks. Find me the person that is moving tickets every single time they're in a featured match. And I think in Japan, I don't think there's an option right now. But I think it's important to note, again, I feel like you and I have the agency to say this, given 52 weeks a year, baby, nonstop Dragon Gate coverage. This is not doom and gloom time for the Reiwa 6. This is not a reason to panic if you're a supporter of the younger generation of Dragon Gate, because I would argue Shun is at the same spot he was in last year. Strong Machine J is, if not slightly better than in the same spot last year. I think Ben is in a healthier spot. I think Kakuta might be in a healthier spot just because he doesn't have the Dreamgate belt, and I have some reservations about him at the top of the card, but I think he'll get back there, and I think he'll be okay. And we're seeing something happen with Minoura here that will be interesting, and that I don't know if I mentioned Ben or not, but Ben was obviously in a better spot this year than he was last year. There's upward mobility here. I made this point a few weeks ago. Sorry, I know I'm rambling here, but I made this point a few weeks ago. We have to look at the entire Japanese wrestling economy right now as like 2010, 2011 New Japan. And what we're working with here in the context of Dragon Gate is your Kojimas, and your Tanahashis, and your Makabes. These are established stars to the crowd that is in the building. The thing that is going to take, whether it's Dragon Gate or New Japan or Noah or All Japan or DDT or whoever, the thing that's going to take them to the next level, it's somebody we don't know about. It's somebody new. Something new has to come. And in the same way that it was Okada for New Japan, he elevated Tanahashi, and he elevated Kojima, and he elevated Makabe, and he elevated all these guys. You and I think, both secretly kind of think it was T and Revolution, and what will happen with that, we'll never know. But it has to be somebody new, and then once you get that new person in place, Ben's going to be a bigger star, Shun's going to be a bigger star, Minoura's going to be a bigger star. They just don't have that right now, but I don't think anybody does. So again, I don't look at this as a thumbs down party on the Reiwa 6. I think they've served their duty wonderfully this year. I just think Yamato was the right move. The more I come away from this show 12 hours after the final bell, Yamato was the right move tonight.
So actually, that plays into another way to I wanted to look at Yamato becoming 6-time Open the Dreamgate champion. He is the 40th champion. I think that when we talk about Yamato and his legacy and his overall health, each one of these title victories at this point of his life and his career, we have the thought of either, and I think this is natural given the way that this company operates. I mean, we're not too far away from the Yamato 20th anniversary match. Just throwing that out there, just to put that kind of in context. This is probably like the best time that Yamato can get those good defenses in with your like talking like age wise and about like, oh, you are about like the 2010 and 2011 New Japan reference you made about like Kojima and like that. Yamato is a very useful person to have that belt. You know how I like talking about debits and credits, and you load up certain cards with the ideas of you build up the cachet of certain wrestlers, and then at a certain point you're able to just cash it in and pay that off on other wrestlers. Yamato is at like the best time to have that belt with how the big six are. If you want to kind of take a look at this and you want to look at it more like complementary to the Shima Mochizuki kind of time period, because when you talk about that time period, you talk about, wow, Mochizuki has those defenses against BB Hulk and Tozawa and then Shima and the matches that he has in the key hunting reign. And you have the potential there with Yamato that this is like the time in his career that you're able to do a lot of those defenses that are going to be a lot more equitable than they would have been in 2018 or 2019, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I saw some people, it's funny, I saw some people talking today on Twitter about, oh, you know, they're just rehashing 2021 all over again. And I disagree with that. I think Paradox, and most of this is by way of Naruki Doi and Dragon Kid, which more on them later, but Paradox, I don't know, Mike, do you agree they already matter more historically than High End ever did?
Oh, easily so. I would argue that they mattered more the second that it was a unit with Naruki Doi and Yamato, and not just Yamato and Dragon Kid over there.
Every time I see Doi wrestle in 2024, I just do the Birdman gif of him rubbing his hands together. It's like, oh, all right. Oh, it's like the Birdman gif and the Grand Theft Auto gif where it's like, oh shit, here we go again.
Here we go
like,
again, yeah.
Doi's in the ring. It's going to be great. But, you know, I think Paradox actually matters in a way that High End never did. And the other nice thing about this is I was a huge supporter last year. It's funny because Yamato's whole thing was like, I spent a year away from the main event in Dragongate. You know what I noticed was missing? Yamato. I have loved the way they've handled Yamato ever since High End broke up, where he took himself out of contention last year. He said, I'm not going to be in the main events. I'm not going to be in a unit. I'm not going to challenge for the Dreamgate belt. I am essentially going to go on like a midlife crisis expedition. I'm going to do weird things with Hiromu. I'm going to do weird things with Gherkin Mask. I'm going to wrestle on the undercards of Dragongate shows, and I'm just going to be a dude for a year, and then we'll reevaluate things. And sure enough, January of this year, he says, I have an issue with you, Kota Minoura. I'm going to make you my personal problem going forward. And he took that personal problem into a Dreamgate victory at Kobe World. I think Yamato has momentum. And I would assume I would put the betting lines at -1,000 that it'll be him and Kai at Dangerous Gate. Kai's hometown. Kai's the guy to beat him for the Dreamgate belt last year, or last time Yamato had it. This is a reign that can have some momentum. And my argument for Ben winning was it's not the reign that matters in the terms of it's not going to make Ben a bigger star. It's going to make whoever beats Ben a bigger star. And I think we're going to get that with Yamato. I feel he's incredibly motivated. I get the impression this is either going to be a really long Dreamgate run or a shockingly short Dreamgate run. I err on the side of I think it's going to be a really long Dreamgate run. And I think Yamato has some fire under his ass that he didn't have in Tribe Vanguard for a multitude of reasons, that he obviously didn't have in High End. We're still waiting when you think about it. We're waiting for the marquee Yamato Dreamgate run because I don't know. Maybe I'm on an island here. Maybe he's super proud of what he did as Dreamgate champion for Tri Vanguard. When Yamato retires, that is not the run that I am going to reference. That was him as a babyface. That was him as the Dreamgate champion. That was a very long title reign. I don't think it was a very good title reign. I think he can do better, and I think we're going to get it this time around.
And I feel like the supporting cast versus 2021, and I would say you don't have all the weird intangibles that started happening during that Tri Vanguard run of, oh, you backdoor your way right into one of your peers leaving, and then you have Naruki Doi like ascendantly on a face turn, and then Doi Yoshi stuff. It just, in a lot of ways, that feels and that felt at the time like a very prohibitive title run. And whereas right now, and maybe it just is with the idea that I mean, he's 42, his health, relatively speaking, is pretty decent, and again, he's still. I mean, he's not had his 18th anniversary celebration for this year yet, and I feel like that all kind of points to the potential for that. And with a schedule like they have this year, that, I mean, he's probably going to want to do a title defense at Gate of Origin when that normally would not be the case because of how the company treats it. That's Yamato territory. He's going to probably want to do something big there.
Yeah, I'm into it. What did you think? And we can maybe circle back once we talk about the match a little bit, but I want to talk about the match itself. What did you think of Yamato versus Ben?
I thought this was really fascinating. I like the matches where it's not that back and forth and things don't matter. This one felt like, oh, wow. At a certain point, Yamato just, through sheer force of will, was able to get through Benkei. It wasn't necessarily the idea that he outsmarted him. It was just more of a reaction of, oh, he was just more determined, and Ragnarok is a move that very little people even come close to kicking out of, and Benkei was not in a position with this. I really thought it was fascinating. I ended up at 4.25 on it, just because of, I felt like that there still was a little bit left for Ben that I would have wanted to see in that match. But on the Yamato side, Yamato's been one of the more fascinating wrestlers in the company since High End left, and him like applying like all the interesting stuff he did in that year back from the front lines, and applying that in the main event, and seeing a little bit more of the shades of the MMA battleship Yamato that we saw in like 2009, 2010, and even I would say case the edge that we got out of him in Mad Blanky era. This was just, in a lot of ways, we didn't really get to see in that 2021 title run, like the idea of middle-aged Yamato. And that's what I feel like we got more in this match, much more so than in that title run whatsoever.
I thought I was hating the match about halfway through. Now, granted, I watched this show live, middle of the night, very slow main event, and I don't have the official time here. Do you know how long this match?
28 minutes.
28. Okay. The first half of this match felt like 28 minutes, and I wasn't sure it was
That's
ever
fair.
going to turn around, and I was really struggling with it. By the end, boy, oh boy, did they get me. And I was blown away. Now, as I look at our Discord here, breaking news, Alan Forel has given this match 5 stars. I will tell you right now, I did not give this match 5 stars. I actually gave it the same rating as you. And that was more so because, again, I thought the finishing stretch was a 4 3/4 star finishing stretch. Man, I thought it dragged so bad at the beginning, and I wasn't sure they were ever going to get it back. But this is, the other part of the Yamato thing that I don't know if we fully really hammered home, and I guess you just did there a second ago, but Yamato's a different wrestler than he was in 2017. Like, he's a little more reckless and a little bit more exciting, and threw some stuff to the wind here. Yeah, the no-touch tope, the crazy finishing stretch where he's hitting the spear, and they did some great counters to where, Ben's going for the spear, and he blocks Yamato's knee counter, but then he goes for it again, and he eats the knee. There's just some stuff there that I thought was really, really great on behalf of Yamato specifically. Ben, to me, I thought Ben was there. I've seen Ben have better big matches in his career. I would put the performance of Yamato in, maybe not number one, because I would still probably have that as, maybe him and Shingo from World 2016 would be my top Yamato match, top singles match. So this is up there, though. This is a really great performance by him, and I'm blown away. I did not see the finish coming, and honestly, the longer the match went, because Ben was so dominant early on, but then Yamato really started to gain momentum. I thought Ben was going to spear him and plant him in the middle of the ring, and 5 years later, he'd get his hand raised just like he did against Pac, but that was not the case, and we have a new Dreamgate champion, and much like you, I'd go 4 1/4 on it.
I think that this felt more of a Yamato match than the Benkei match.
Very much so, because Yamato got to do all the things that he's good at. He got to throw really hard strikes. He got to do really cool counters. I just, and then again, there's this danger element to Yamato now.
He gets caught in midair out of a was it just a enziguri, or was it a go to hospital one, and Benkei just basically picks him up and throws him over the top rope, and he crashes to the floor. And actually, you know what, arguably that was the momentum shift for Yamato getting on offense, was Yamato getting tossed 13 or how tall would you say, like, if you're being thrown from like the top, or like the way that it was like thrown, like that's like a solid like 8 feet at like the apex, crashing down to like the very thin padding.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't want to take that. I want no part of that.
It was wild. It was like, okay, Ben, what are we doing here tonight?
I'm into it. I'm excited about this Yamato run. And again, I would very safely assume, you tell me if you disagree, but it's got to be Kai at Dangerous Gate, right?
Right. I feel like you have Kai at Dangerous Gate. In a lot of ways, this is going to sound like I'm cheaping out. I feel like you can do that. You could probably go, I don't know if what kind of title defense you do in Sendai, but you're going to do one in Sendai probably now. And this might sound hack. I would run Shimizu in Osaka. I would go all the way through that way, and then you would get to a point where like Final Gate would be the first time I would even like address the idea of Yamato losing the belt, I would say.
I think you're probably right there. The tough thing with Shimizu is that they just did that last year.
Yeah, that's my hesitation, because like you're replaying that, and like we still have the open question of King of Gate, maybe? Yes, no. We still have no kind of clue with that. But it does feel like, as you were saying before, like this does have the undercurrent of this could be the defining one where Yamato completely rewrites his own record book. It does really feel that way.
It would be interesting if they ran King of Gate from September Korakuen to October Korakuen, so September 5th to October 4th, because what if the draw for Gate of Origin this year was a bunch of King of Gate matches? That'd be really fun. They've never done that before.
Hey, I think that would be a better use of it than just like a very heatless Twin Gate or Brave Gate match.
Yeah, I like that. You also, August, you've got a Korakuen show. King of Gate's not happening in August if you weren't aware, because one, all of their stars are already booked for matches in August outside of Yamato, and then you've got Dangerous Gate coming up with the 12th. Again, it's not going to be Strong Machine J, it's going to be Kai. But you run that September 5th through October 4th, you have the Yamato Homecoming show on September 8th, which is ripe for a King of Gate match. Then you've got Gate of Origin, you've got an Osaka number 2, and obviously a Kobe Sambo Hall all in that month, and then you wrap it up Friday, October 4th in Korakuen Hall, and then you can build that winner all the way through November 3rd for Gate of Destiny. That feels like the schedule they're going to go with. And while I like and agree with your logic on Shimizu challenging Yamato, because we've never had a Yamato Shimizu Dreamgate match, their singles match from King of Gate 2016 is one of my favorite Shimizu matches of all time. If you do King of Gate then, and you have it be that the challenger is going to be at Gate of Destiny, that opens up the door for almost anybody. And I think that'd be a great way to go about it.
Yeah, there's just a lot of options, I feel like. And
you know what I really want from this Yamato title run?
What is that?
I really want a Yamato Korakuen defense.
Yamato Corkin defenses usually are where we would get stuff like the equivalence of him getting tossed over the top rope. Like that was the insane car wreck BB Hulk title defense was the last one, I believe.
You beat me to it. I was going to ask you what was the last Yamato Dreamgate Corkin match, and it was him and BB Hulk in February of 2017.
They just did apron spots. Like
that's right, because Hulk got into a weird thing where that kind of became his motif for a while, where it's just like, Hulk is getting dropped from the top rope to the apron. Got it. All right, cool.
It was the really bad over-the-top suplex spot he was obsessed with, and it never, ever... that spot has never looked good by anyone, but Hulk was, like, bit down in a turn, but instead he was doing, like, EVOs on the apron, and you see Maria just, like, scream in abject terror at, like, the head drops that they were doing.
I know.
Now I'm thinking about that title match. That title match ruled.
Well, it's the same show as the Yamamura stuff. That's the same show as the Shimizu Yamamura 20-minute draw, and then those guys getting added to the semi-main. That's how long ago Yamato's last Dreamgate match in Corkin was, because the 2021 reign was all big shows, and I think that might, more than anything, that might be the trick and the key to this Yamato Dreamgate run, is just having it feel less formulaic than Champion Gate and Dead or Alive and Kobe and Dangerous Gate. Give us. I'm gonna get too far ahead of myself here.
I have a really crazy Corkin defense for him.
Okay, I wonder if it's the same as mine, because I don't know about you, but god damn it, do I want to see Yamato versus Ishin for the Dreamgate belt in Corkin.
Oh, I was thinking, well, seeing how popularity is, why not Hyo at this point?
Oh, I was thinking maybe Jack.
I mean, like, you have like this possibility now just because they haven't done it in 8 years.
Do I buy Hyo as a Dreamgate challenger even? Because obviously not a champion, but do I even buy him as a challenger?
I would say he is a lot more likely in my mind than Jack, who's never held the Brave Gate.
It would be that match would be so great if Yamato was just such an asshole and did a whole thing where he just bullied Hyo for an entire month up until that match. But I'm trying to think of any.
And he would completely do it about how he actually was the sexiest.
My God, you're so right.
This is the thing that in 2014 Dragongate would have cut off Hyo completely at the heels.
I wonder, I can't think of anything. You're the president of the Hyo fan club. There's no real, like, historical anecdote between those two, right?
I mean, not really. I mean, never any sort of alignment or anything. I mean, I'm trying to think where Toyohashi is. No, Toyohashi isn't near Sendai. Yeah, I have no idea, like what, like, secrets they have.
Well, but just in terms of there's no big callback you can go to with those two.
No, because like when Hyo and the 2016 guys were rookies, that was still at a time where like you had a lot of other people act as veterans, so like Yamato would not have been in like those matches with them, really.
It's a shame that Corkin show, they're going to have to do something with Yamato and Z-Brats to set up that Kai match, because what I would love is if they did like Yamato and Susumu and Kagatora against Daiki and Fuda and Estrella or something like that, where they just fresh out of the gate had Paradox just kick the shit out of some young guys at that August Corkin show. That'd be so much fun. They can't do that though. They got to actually build a Dreamgate match, which I understand.
I mean, Daiki is sitting right there.
He's so good. I don't understand why they won't do anything with him. I think that guy is just... He
gets gear that makes him look like an absolute geek. That's that would be what stops me from pushing him.
Yeah, but they can, they can get him new gear. I don't know. His gear doesn't bother me, actually. I'm a little dumbfounded on that one. The Fuda thing, it's like, all right, there's so much there. There's so much lore there. There's so many stops and starts there. All right, I would push Fuda if I had the pencil, but I understand some reservations there. The Daiki thing is like, is this not what you guys dream of? This middleweight that can do a bunch of cool stuff? Like, what am I missing here? This guy feels like he should be in the thick of things, and he's just not.
I I just get like such dweeb vibes from him that I feel like that maybe that there's someone like I mean that they wouldn't do a single thing of Tozawa until he came back from America because he was so annoying as a teenager. I wonder if there's just like someone backstage that's just like I'm not I don't care for him. I wonder if that's it. Like if we're getting like an Ultimo Shisa thing.
They should send him on excursion and have him work at Kobe Sambo Hall and Osaka number 2 and KBS Hall and clean those venues for like 6 months. And then he can come back and graduate from cleaning Korakuen too.
Yeah. No, I mean, he has to go find like the real micro indies that like that just run like Osaka Taisho Hall and things like.
It'd be great if they sent him to Mexico only to clean Arena Nakampo. They were like, you're not wrestling. You're just on the IWRG crew. You just have to clean the ring before and after the show.
I'm blanking. Oh, the Morenos. The Morenos is like, yeah, no. After what happened, the last kid guys was sent down there. We want to send a nice kid who's just going to help out.
Yeah, bring your broom, bring your dustpan. We'll see you in 6 months. We'll give you a push then. You are cleaning Arena Nakampo until further notice.
Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Any other Dreamgate thoughts?
I'm into it, man. This Yamato run has me excited. Don't listen to people that don't watch Dragongate. When they announced Yamato versus Kai and they fade it, they had a good match of Final Gate a few years ago. Kai is a contracted Dragongate wrestler. He's a very good wrestler. They will have a very good match again. That's not confirmed, but I would be stunned if they went with anything else on that show for Dangerous Gate. I don't know, man. I'm into it. I understand why people wanted Ben to win. I wanted Ben to win. This makes sense though, and I am a fair man. I've been critical of babyface Yamato holding the Dreamgate belt in the past. I am going to give him a chance. This could end up being the career-defining reign of Yamato with the Open the Dreamgate Championship, especially if they let him defend the title in Korakuen.
Yeah, I feel like that, especially given the kind of promo that he gave after the match. This is going to be one of those title runs that they'll have a lot of time for. And I mean, thinking about like the DG family video clip of all the moments they aired throughout the 25 years of the Dragon system, like it feels like that this is a time where like they're going to try to add some new moments to this. And I really am enamored with the idea of a Hyo Korakuen title defense, especially when he remains as hot as he does. So my main event for Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival 2024 opened the Twin Gate title match. This was a 4-way elimination style title defense for team Not Hug representing Paradox, Dragon Kid, and Naruki Doi. They make their first successful defense. I believe it's first or second. Oh, first defense. And the last one, the last fall being the Doible on Jason Lee. The other two falls were a really ugly moonsault double knees by Shun Skywalker onto KZ, and then the first elimination was Flamita doing the Flam Fly on Kamei. 21 minutes and 21 seconds. I guess, Case, what we should do with this one is treat this like Price is Right and the Mountaineer game, where like the mountain is trying to like, where it's like the mountain climbers representing like the can of Comet Cleaner, and like you try to get to the right price, but if you're too far, then it tips over. Case, was this a 4.5 star match for you?
4.5 on the dot, my friend.
Okay, so I nailed it in one. We are not going off the cliff. I was 4.5 for this one.
Thank God, by the way, because I don't watch Price is Right. I had no idea what you were talking about.
I forget if it was called like the Matterhorn.
No, I've heard of whatever that was. But not my game show. No, I'm lost a little bit. I know you're supposed to go under, not over. That's the whole gimmick of the game. I don't fully understand the game, but I do understand great wrestling when I see it, and I understand a 4.5 star match when I see it.
Yeah, this just was they had the strong sprint to start, and I was waiting to see like if this was going to be a match where like they eliminate people quick and then it'll be a long finishing stretch. Instead, it felt like that they went almost 15 minutes before the first elimination, and you got to see really the hallmark of all 8 guys without that. Like, I were you surprised that Big Hug were the first elimination and so early into a match like this? Like, Flamita in a lot of ways just kind of was like, oh, I'm Flamita. I'm reminding y'all how great I am, and Jack, you're not at my level right now.
Was I surprised? I was stunned. I thought they were going to win the match. They were the first ones out.
I mean, I was really at a point where I thought it was going to be Shun and Jason at that, and I was surprised in the closing stretch with that. What did you think of new gear? We got rid of the overalls.
Gear looked awesome. That's what I'm talking about. Jack and Big Hug was not connecting with me on the level that it felt like it should have, and part of that was the gear. Part of that was the fact that for the first 5 months of this year, the 3 best wrestlers in the world were Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay, and Jack Kame. And from May through July, we hadn't really seen Kame the way we know him and love him. And part of that is the lack of YouTube uploads, because I'm sure there were great Big Hug 6-mans that we just didn't see. But, you know, he had cooled off a little bit. And the MVP of this match, look, I've got a ton to say about Doi and Dragon Kid. I've got a ton to say about Shun. Flamita, I'll say it now, was phenomenal. But Jack was the MVP of this match. And I don't think this match ever picked back up to the level that it was at once Big Hug got eliminated, because everything Kame did the entire time he was in the match was nothing short of electric.
Yeah, it made me wonder if they really only had that much of a plan out for stuff involving Jack Kame. The fact that like the leapfrog Super Rana felt like that, like in the lead up, like that really felt like that could have been the finish for the match. Would have been like that. Maybe the part of not or part of Big Hug being such a new pairing. One would think that everything would be based off of the years of like working against each other, but maybe Jack and Monte like the teamwork like that's as much as they've got to, and that's why they made the elimination where it was. Maybe
I thought they were a damn fine tag team while they were there. I love the spot where Kame did the like kung fu where he's got a guy in the arm drag.
And
he normally just does it off of one person's chest, but he did 5. He kicked 5 people in the chest and then did an arm drag. I've never seen that before. There was a bunch of stuff in this match I've never seen before. And again, he was the purveyor of most of it. You know, I'll mention the Dragon Kid Ultra Poison Rana, which I've never seen him do. But yeah, I don't know. I hope at some point that they just do Doi and Kid versus Kame and Monte, then Doi and Kid versus Shun and Jason, and then Doi and Kid versus KZ, and hopefully Flamita comes back because he is going home after this show. But I don't know, man. I thought this match was great. It was the match of the night. I have no complaints about it, other than, man, I really wish Big Hug were in it for longer, because I thought Kame was kind of entering that special rarefied air that he had in 2022, where you would watch a match and go, I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing right now. We were on the way to that, and I think had the finishing stretch, let's say, been Monte and Kame against Doi and Dragon Kid, imagine the Jackie knives down the finishing stretch. Imagine what he and Doi could have done, because it feels like Kame and Doi together is still really untapped potential. I'm more than happy with the result. I'm more than happy with the match, but man, it just feels like we were on the cusp of something that got taken away from us.
Yeah, like if we had this match set up in Fire Pro and we were letting the CPU fight it out, like this is the sim that we're maybe we run this one back and see what happens again. You know, like maybe this was not the best result we let the computers do. You know,
very much so.
Other things worth noting with this, purple gear for Shun and Jason. We know that Shun especially pulls out special gear, but made you really think that either teasing Dark Masquerade or just being like, hey, we have that history, we should do black and purple and go off of that. I thought that, especially like Shun's entrance mask, like he now has like one of the best like just overall looks in all of wrestling, and takes it to a new level with just how just unsettling now he looks. And then you have Jason and like the full bodysuit as well. I thought they looked incredible.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a loaded question here,
All right.
and I'm going to ask you to list the first person that comes to mind, okay?
All right. A loaded question in the first hour of the show.
Who's the greatest Kobe world performer of all time?
Greatest Kobe world performer of all time. Boy. Yeah, that's loaded, man.
It is. It's a tough one. We've gone through 25 of these now. You and I have been podcasting for I think nine of them almost now. This was my 9th Kobe World Review this year.
I think that in modern era or all time, it might be the same person. It might be Naruki Doi.
Okay. That's
a safe answer, I feel like.
So you go back through history. I'll just do the Dragongate stuff because I don't have the Torimon stuff pulled up.
Okay.
Doi has the Dragongate match in 2005, Shima, Fuji, and Doi versus Dragon Kid, Genki Horiguchi, and Ryo Saito. That's a 5-star match.
Yeah, 2007 too.
Yeah,
Right.
so 2006, it's Dr. Muscle, Gamma, Yoshino, Tanizaki, and Doi versus Don Fuji, Jack Evans, Matt Sydal, Roderick Strong, and Yasushi Kanda. That might be the best match on 2006 Kobe World.
Which is more of a statement of 2006 Kobe World than that match, to be honest.
Because it's not Dos Cars versus BB Hulk, because that match is a piece of shit. It's not Yutaka Yoshie versus Shingo Takagi, because I don't like that match. It's either the 10-man tag I just listed, or it's Tenryu and Magnum versus Mochi and Minoru Suzuki.
It might be that one. It's just because Minoru Suzuki had the "what the fuck are we doing here" kind of quotient going on.
The 10-man's really good, though. I know it sounds ridiculous. The 10-man's really good, because I remember Jack Evans, actually, specifically. That's a good Jack match. But 2007, Hulk Kong Shingo versus Doi Yoshino Kishiwada. That's the best match on that show. 2008 is the Dragongate 12-man, which is Gamma, Yamato, and Kanda versus Yoshino, Tanizaki, and Doi, Mori, Dragon Kid, and Pac, and Fuji, Kishiwada, and Mochizuki. That might be the best match. That is the best match on that show. Well, no, Shingo Hulk's better. So second best match on that show. 2009 is Shima and Doi. I don't love that match. 2010 is Doi and Pac against Cyber Kong and Kagetora, Dragon Kid and Ryo Saito, and Nozawa and Tozawa. Fun match, not great. 2011, fun match, not great. 2012 is Doi Yoshino Pac versus Hulk Kong and Tanizaki and Fuji Gamma and Mochizuki. That match is good, not great. 2013 is Ricochet and Doi versus Tozawa and Hulk. That's one of the best matches of all time. 2014 is a fun Dragongate match. 2015 is a great Twin Gate match. 2016 is a bad Twin Gate match only because of Brother Yashi. 2017 is one of the best Twin Gate matches of all time at Shima and Dragon Kid versus Yoshino and Doi. 2018 is in a 6-man that was largely meaningless. 2019, match of the year contender Twin Gate match, the 3-way tag. 2020 is hanging out with Yoshino. 2021, he's in the Ultima comeback match, and then he's in the Yoshino farewell, both of which are phenomenal. 2022, he was just fucking around that weekend. And then last year, he had what I thought was a really underrated Dragongate match, and then this Twin Gate match. The answer is Naruki Doi. Now, I asked you that question actually not to segue into Naruki Doi. I was going to mention that I think Shun Skywalker is really creeping up on everybody, and it's a growing theme here as we go throughout this year that, hey, historically, Skywalker is now putting together a resume that is hard to ignore, because you just look at the last 5 years. It's KZ and Shun in 2019. It's Shun and Eita in 2020. It's Shun and KZ in 2021, and then Shun and Yamato the next night. The year after that, it was obviously the infamous tag match, and then, a cooldown 8-man the night after that. And then last year's in the cage match, this year's in the Twin Gate match. That is as dominant of a 5-year stretch that I can remember anybody having at this show.
I think, actually, that might be as dominant of a stretch as anyone's had in this building, to be fair.
Oh, God, yeah. Because, it's not like Noah used to run this building. Noah wasn't doing, anything like that consistently.
No, and with, New Japan, just because of the way that they run this building and the times of the year they run it, there's just not the consistency as you would have if you run it one time a year for the biggest show of the year. It's just different kind of matches available there. I think Shun Skywalker, then, like you talk about the 5-year period, it's going to be him, and just across the industry.
there's a lot of Shun things happening right now that, again, we'll have that conversation later, but we should earmark that as like, hey, he's kind of coming up on something pretty special here. But Naruki Doi is the answer, and Naruki Doi is the guy we should talk about, Mike.
Mr. Saito.
Mr. Saito, what's his Ota City nickname? Mr. Dangerous?
He's Mr. Otis. It's going to be Otaku, but it's Mr. Otis City. Yeah.
That's right. Look, the 2020s have been so kind to Naruki Doi. He was my wrestler of the year in 2020. In 2021, he was very, very good. 2022, he was injured. I thought he took a step back. I thought maybe we had seen the end of peak Naruki Doi. And instead, he has come back, and from the beginning of 2023 until now, this 19-month run, we're witnessing the very best version of him. It's very rare in wrestling. And I think you get a few of these guys every few years. And Doi is now at this level, and it's the level that I would put Danielson at, and I would put Ospreay at, and I would put peak Okada or Shingo at. If Doi is in a match that matters right now, I have zero doubt the match is going to be anything less than great. And there's a lot of great wrestlers out there who don't hit every single time. And in 2024, Doi has hit every single time. He is doing the best work of his career right now. And this result was unexpected to me. But as I've told you and I've said on this show a million times, I'm in favor of doing anything that keeps Naruki Doi busy and engaged. And a Twin Gate Championship is just that. So I am all for this result.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, now you can revisit parts of this four-way as singles defenses, and that could very easily fill out not Hugs fight card for the remainder of the year. I this was my favorite thing on the show. It had there's a little bit, I feel like, in this match, like doing all four teams for 2/3 of it versus a quick eliminations and then having a long final segment. It just had the section with Flamita and Jack and leading up to that finish just was a remarkable. Just wanted to just say one more time, was just such a remarkable part of the match. Really, really worth going out of your way for. And again, 4.5 stars for both of us. Any other last thoughts on the Twin Gate before we talk about the Brave?
I don't want these guys to lose the belts anytime soon. They won this. I'm ready for, I pitched Shun and Jason going on a really dominant run, but I think Doi and Dragon Kid have that energy. They are going to be my tag team of the year because there's nobody in AEW that I really like. I don't know. You tell me, because you might at this point be more up to date on New Japan than I am, because I watched yesterday's G1 show and thought, it's been a while since I've turned on New Japan. I don't think there's any New Japan tag team that's getting rave reviews this year. Their competition is Jason and Jackie, who put up ridiculous numbers in the first quarter of the year, but it was only the first quarter of the year. So Doi and Dragon Kid by the end of the year should have a deeper resume. And I think they are brilliant. And credit to Jason Lee, by the way, because I thought he had a great night as well. And we talked last year at this time because he had the Brave Gate match with Ishin, where it's like, man, like, I don't know, Jason put on all that weight and he's not moving the same with all that muscle, and he seems to have taken a step back. And I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. The heel Jason Lee run has been such a breath of fresh air. And for as great as Shun was in this match, and he was great, I thought Jason was right there with him the entire time.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Other tag teams, I mean, there'll be those who say astronauts, and then I guess Saito.
But have they I haven't heard of an astronauts match being pimped this year.
I mean, but the people that will pimp them, will pimp them regardless.
This is fair. I'm sure they would say the same thing about us and Doi and Dragon Kid, but I feel very confident in my opinion.
Yeah, because we're right about it. But Saito twins, I guess really like it would be one of those kind of situations. But when you get to Saito twins, how much of it is actually the work rate and how much of it is the overall presence and business?
Yeah, no, Doi and Dragon Kid, and Saitos are fine. They've grown on me, but I mean, Doi and Dragon Kid are a better tag team without question. By any way you want to analyze wrestling. And I guess this is the larger point I want to make on Doi is it's funny listening to the Flagship this past week because they were doing a big thing on Will Ospreay and how, and they're right. He is the most harshly analyzed wrestler that I can ever remember. Now, Peak Okada comes close, because if people weren't around for when big New Japan shows really mattered and Okada was in all those main events, the Okada discourse was unbearable, because it was much like the Ospreay thing, where it was just like, why are we wasting our time with this? He's obviously amazing. What's the conversation to be had here? And that's when, you would get Inoki's butthole and Hashimoto's chin going, well, actually, it's like, no, he's fucking great.
Let's talk about how he forms his fists when he throws punch.
Well, that forearm strike at 16 minutes looked weak. I was like, all right, but the other 45 minutes were fucking awesome. So I don't know what to tell you. He threw a weak forearm. We all do. Let's all move on with our day. I don't get it.
No, not to speak ill of the retired. Apply that same kind of thing to like your Daniel Makabe matches, but that you do to Will Ospreay.
Leave that alone.
I'm not wrong.
Strike from Mike Spears.
I'm not wrong.
Good lord.
Treat him equally.
But with Doi, I want to make this point, because they were talking about how we all got to a point where the larger wrestling consensus accepted that Tanahashi was great, and then they accepted that Okada was great, and then they accepted that Omega was great. Ospreay's a little bit different because of the style that he works. I think some people are just going to be blinded by their own stupidity. I don't know if we'll ever get the consensus with Ospreay that we've gotten with Tanahashi and Okada and Omega, which are the ones that I've watched in real time be incredibly divisive. There's the other side of that, which is the fight that you and I have been fighting for a decade now, which is trying to get CIMA in the Hall of Fame and trying to get people to understand that Mochizuki and Shingo and Susumu are all-time greats.
Dragongate should get a chance to get a vote.
Yes. Yeah. That was our big conversation over the last year and a half, was like, hey, you know who's influenced all of modern Joshi? Dragon Kid. You know who's been a great wrestler for 25 years? Dragon Kid.
I mean, Dragon Kid, I've decided, like the spirit I had for the CIMA argument like 8 years ago, it's now like 10 times for Dragon Kid, just to get an up and down vote, basically.
Which is funny, because I as time goes on, I sometimes wonder if CIMA's case has actually gotten stronger. It was just
whereas I'm like shoving that case like further like into the file cabinet.
The further we get away from peak CIMA, the more I go like,
the more we diverge. I feel like
the more I go, hey, no one's really doing it like he did. No one's really on that level. And maybe Japanese wrestling would be better if everybody, it's the low key thing, where it's like, I'd rather have more low keys than less low keys. I'd rather have more peak CIMA.
Well, we've seen what happens when you have the CIMA influence, and that is you book yourself into someone else's retirement match, fifth from the top. Hall.
We don't judge Patrick Ewing's Hall of Fame candidacy on his time in the Orlando match. We don't judge Hakeem Olajuwon.
All right, Bill.
Thank you. We don't judge Hakeem Olajuwon on his time with the Toronto Raptors, but what we do judge is wrestlers. And I don't want to jump too far ahead of the stuff I want to talk about with the 25th anniversary match, but we're talking about guys that have been wrestlers for 25 years now, guys that have been great wrestlers for 25 years, or in the case of Doi, 20 years, because he really got great in 2005. That's a really long time. That's a really long time to be great at something. Go ahead.
Yeah, and in most sports or careers, I mean, you're talking about essentially like the career of like Randy Orton, or you're talking about like someone who is one of the longest tenured like NFL players, or like Nolan Ryan at a certain point when you're talking about like 20 or 25-year careers. I don't think people afford the proper context to like what the Dragon system is as a lifespan at that point. Not to completely jump onto your point, but
that's the point, is that I think we have to do a referendum on the way that we view Doi's career, and that maybe not the way you and I do it, but that the way outsiders view it, where his name should probably be, and I'm not saying he's had an equal career to Shingo or to CIMA or to Susumu, but it's becoming not that far off. You know what I mean? Like, 5 years ago, I wrestled with Doi being one of the 100 greatest wrestlers of all time, and if I did a list now, and it's like, oh, was he in the top 50? He might be. And I just think historically, we all need to kind of reevaluate where we put Naruki Doi, because this is one of the single greatest tag team wrestlers of all time. We've seen him be a successful heavyweight champion. We've seen him be a successful junior heavyweight champion. The thing that I've thought about a lot recently is, outside of the GLATE contingent, which is its own little ball game, but you think about the guys that have left Dragongate or that are now working Dragongate and X companies, they all succeed. And Doi is the textbook example of that, because he's killing it in All Japan right now. And that junior division would not be where it's at without Doi. And then you think about all the work that he's doing in Dragongate, and this is just a special pro wrestler. And unfortunately, I annoy people, and Dragongate itself is an annoying product for a lot of people. And so we have these historically great wrestlers that I don't think get talked about in the way that they should. And we've seen progress with Shingo because he jumped to New Japan, and we've seen progress with Tozawa because he worked the U.S. Indies, and Shima is the name that everybody still associates with Dragongate even now. And there has to be momentum in the direction of Naruki Doi's name, and I don't think there's, I mean, you and I would vote for him for the Observer Hall of Fame, but there's not a Hall of Fame candidacy there. He's not the greatest wrestler of all time, but Doi is better at this profession than the overwhelming majority of people that have ever tried, and he's doing his best work now, and that is something that should be appreciated and celebrated, and I am incredibly thankful that we are living in the time of Naruki Doi.
Yeah, the one thing that while you're talking that kind of sometimes like we get so passionate, or like something pops in our head and you just kind of fixate on it until you are able to talk. And like for the last like 2 minutes, the one thing I want to say is, why don't we treat Naruki Doi the same way that we treat Satoshi Kojima?
That's a very fair take. That's a very fair take. And I would say Doi's had the better career, and I love Kojima.
I mean, you look at like people who gone a certain way and end up like being legendary tag team wrestlers, but also having the singles bona fides. And you put the cases up. Like if you were doing wrestler A, wrestler B, one being Satoshi Kojima, one being Naruki Doi. Naruki Doi's case is going to look a lot more like Satoshi Kojima's. A will look a lot more like B than people actually realize, I feel like.
Doi has more iconic matches in the greater wrestling worldview, which is an interesting thing to think about, because he has Blood Generation versus Do Fixer, and then he also has the TNA match with Motor City Machine Guns.
Well, he also has the match with Ultimo Guerrero and Rey Bucanero from TNA too.
Yeah, and that's not a checkmate. That's just, I just thought of that now, that like, if it sounds ridiculous to compare those two, it's like, well, kind of on every level, Doi at least matches him, and then Doi has some really, really important matches to the history of contemporary wrestling.
Talk to Alex Shelley about Naruki Doi.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. He's someone who
dig through some old conversations.
Yeah. If you think about great tag team wrestlers, they understand what Naruki Doi is. It's just time that the rest of the wrestling world should think about that as well.
Let me say one more thing on the Twin Gate.
Absolutely.
Look, I know I just talked about how Kai is going to wrestle for the Dreamgate belt in August, and I still think that'll happen. If I was booking Dragon Gate, Dangerous Gate would be, I don't care what Yamato does, it would be Dragon Kid and Naruki Doi versus Ishin and Kai, because those guys have been tearing up the undercard for months now, and in a normal company that would go somewhere, in Dragon Gate, it's just like, hey, they're the odd men out, they're just going to do this for a while. They should wrestle Doi and Dragon Kid, because I am ready for Ishin versus Dragon Kid and Ishin versus Naruki Doi. I want more of that. I think that'd be a super fun match. I hope at some point during this reign, we get that match.
Yep, that is outside of the other three people or three teams in the Twin Gate match. That would be the fourth team in the division. Really worth kind of stating. And thinking about like that, like the best tag team conversation. AEW ends up like not having a tag team division now.
Oh, it's
wild.
A fucking atrocity. I can't believe what they do. You know, I thought about it a few days ago.
Sorry, I did not mean to completely tangent us with
no,
that.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
I want to make this point, and then I want to throw two possible Twin Gate matches at you, and then we'll move on. I promise. But you know what I thought about recently? I haven't been able to post the fucking Young Bucks article since March. And for the Young Bucks, that is an eternity, because I would have thrown it out there after the Sting Darby match, I think. But they have somehow fucked up the Young Bucks.
They haven't had a single tag match, I feel like, since that match.
I don't know how that's possible. They're the greatest tag team of all time, and they've lapped Holy Demon Army since that article was written. What are we doing? How are they not entertaining me? How is nobody entertaining me? Why are the Guns on TV every week? Why is the Acclaimed on TV every week? How do you not have a fun trios division with the company that you have on the roster that you have? I don't get it. In terms of Twin Gate matches, give me Ishin and Kai. Give me Kakuta and Tanaka.
Okay.
I think is the match I want to see more so than Kakuta and Daya, because Daya's got the Brave Gate belt. And then, and this is the big one. I was actually DMing with somebody about this during the show today. Give me Minorita and Mochizuki Jr. as a tag team. That should be the focus going forward, is those two and their crazy charisma. But we'll get to that after the Brave Gate match.
Absolutely. It's speaking of crazy charisma, open the Brave Gate, the two most popular men on the roster, Hyo and Dragon Dia, facing off for the Brave Gate. Hyo fails in his 8th defense. Dragon Dia wins with the Reptilian Rana. Everyone pulling out all the big guns here, even an SB shooter to get to that point. Dia becomes the 52nd Open the Brave Gate champion. And now, interesting defense. This was like the biggest surprise for me on the show, more so than Benkei versus Yamato. I felt like that they were probably going to still, there was still some tread on the Hyo Bravegate tire, in my opinion. So I was kind of a little surprised that they went towards Dia. But I think Dia, after Best of the Super Junior, kind of falls in your lap. You might have to go with that direction.
I was surprised by the result. You know, I thought they were inching towards Hyo beating Pac's Bravegate record, but they did not. And I'm in the same boat as you are. You know, I don't think this hurts Hyo. I think this helps Dia. I think Dia had a lot of momentum. I'm not sure where you would go with Hyo from here, so I'm fine with it. The thing that I am bummed out about is that I think Hyo had this very, very good Bravegate run, and I still don't think he's had the iconic Hyo match. And for those that watch everything, we get it. You know, he's the most over guy in the company. I've talked about that. I've talked to people that go to shows. They go, it's Doi and Dragon Kid merch and it's Hyo merch, and those are the things that people buy. There's just not the one match. And we think he's a great wrestler too, but there just isn't the one Hyo match where you can go, here, see, this is why he's so good. And I thought this match was close to getting there, but it just wasn't that match.
Yeah, it kind of ended up, it became a match about Dragon Dia's leg and his leg selling. I thought that the way that Dia worked this around, this was based off of Hyo leg DDT. Dia, it would be an annoying Osprey kind of discourse thing with the way that Dia kind of sold the knee. It was more on, he dealt with adrenaline, and then after the moves was when the selling was happening, not while he was doing it. We got an SB shooter that was called an SB shooter that kind of, I don't think there's anything behind that, just kind of Hyo trying to make us remember Bamashiri. A big kick out of the hunting. Like, this was the one thing that kind of at the final moments in this match that got me and made me think like, oh, they're putting the belt on Dia. Dia kicked out of every single move that Hyo has ever named in his life, and that's a long list of moves. But he kicked out of all of them. He kicked out of every single one. I was like, oh, he's going for the Orpha. Okay, that's a move that hasn't pinned someone in 18 months. Let's go for it. Okay, but Dia kicks out anyways.
Yeah, look, the Hyo run was an absolute success, and the match with Dia here was great. And it's very good. I shouldn't say great because I went 3 3/4 on it. It's you're right. You know, they left everything out on the table here. Dia not winning this match, it would have been like, oh, that's the end of it. You know, he had the Super Juniors pop, and I guess we're done with things now. But no, he's gonna ride this wave of momentum going forward. And we've seen Dia with the Bravegate belt before. I don't know if we've seen Dia with the Bravegate belt and this much momentum. So You'll get some rematches. Hopefully they're very good. I like Daya a lot, and I'm kind of ready for all of these Bravegate guys to go from very good to great, and maybe Daya will be the guy to do that.
Yeah, I was for flat. That's probably my Hyo bias, though. I do kind of feel like that we're D-Courage is going to have an interesting fall. That's my big second half of 2024 prediction. I think that we know that Yoshioka, he's not coming back imminently, but it is something that's anticipate before the end of 2024. It does kind of feel like that August D-Courage plus Taniguchi versus Z-Brats match can be like the branching match for that feud. I just wonder now with like where like kind of Z-Brats is and with Daya, like you don't have like a clear Bravegate challenger coming from there. But Daya with the momentum it's the right move. He did have probably it was not like a entrance robe. It was like how would you describe this case? You're much younger than I am. How would you describe his cape that he had on?
Bad, not good, not something he should ever wear again. That is how I would describe it.
It was like a pink, and it was like it looked like it was supposed to be like utility wear.
Yeah, it looked like he was about to go like rock climbing.
Mm-hmm. But instead, it was just like it had like one buckle, and that was it.
Whereas
like,
I thought he'll look great. A Big Hug figured out their look on this show. This should be their gear going forward.
I did not mention this when we talked about the Jack gear. I love the fact that he now has like his own leather jacket and it has turtle print on it.
It's great.
I thought that was like, okay, that's cute. You're playing it up like you brought back Turtle-kun there. Yeah, Hyo is at this point now where I'm just like, oh, just like talking to people who aren't necessarily like all into Dragongate in the day-to-day. I just like show them a photo of Hyo's like current look. I'm like, yeah, this is the most popular guy on the roster right now. And he's kind of doing like this kind of like early 90s like teen bop kind of gimmick. It's great.
Well, he's the HBK to Monte's Diesel.
Yeah. I was thinking like Conan, like early 90s. Yeah. Like especially when he had the bandana. Like Hyo needs to bring back like that grunge look. It was really good.
The good news with Hyo losing this match is it opens the door for a Big Hug Dragongate championship opportunity. That
was the thing. I'm like, all right, now I feel like we know what our Dragongate match is going forward.
Yeah, that feels like the one obvious thing going out of this, because the Dreamgate belt, you would assume it's Yamato Kai, as I've said. The Twin Gate, who knows? Bravegate, who knows? Triangle Gate, I would be stunned if they don't go with Big Hug at Dangerous Gate.
Yeah, it just seems like that it makes a whole lot of sense. And who would face off against Big Hug? Well, in the Triangle Gate title match, Natural Vibes Forever. Strong Machine J, I feel like I need to apologize, Case. I was the one saying, like, what is Strong Machine J's Natural Vibes? We got to see that with the new intro for Natural Vibes Forever. They retain against the new gold class team of BB Hulk, Minarita, and Mochizuki Jr. It was Strong Machine J with the machine suplex on Hulk in 12 minutes. And yeah, I feel like Natural Vibes versus Big Hug for the Triangle Gate is the next obvious title match.
How great was this match?
I am just like, from like the start, like I don't know how like a dance number can make you like think like, oh, I'm looking at something brand new. Like Natural Vibes feels completely refreshed, but from that moment on, like this is my second favorite match on the show. I was 4.25 stars on it. I thought that I like this more than the Dreamgate match, guys.
Really? Okay. I like the Dreamgate a tad more. I guess I should say the Dreamgate match was better than this. I actually enjoyed this more than the Dreamgate, though, because of my man Mochizuki Jr.
I mean, 22 years old and has the whole world in the palm of his hands, Mochizuki Jr., you mean?
And we know what he's going to do in the second half of the year now. It's back to him and Strong Machine J. They teased this about 2 years ago because he was kind of hurt at this time last year.
Yeah.
So, they were doing Ishin and Junior and J all together, and it obviously siphoned off into more Junior and Ishin stuff. And they're going to go, Junior and Strong Machine J. I'm sure Natural Vibes will drop the belts to Big Hug, and then you'll have more time for Junior and Strong Machine J to go at it. And we have, like I continue to say, they're always doing something with Mochizuki Jr. He never falls out of favor. He's never on a big show looking around with no obvious opponent. He stepped up to the plate in this match because it was a match, no Dad, no Susumu, no Kanda. You would have no idea that this was ever a reservation because he was so damn good in this match.
Yeah, and you have a challenger team where the onus was on him because Hulk. I mean, the Hulk was there to eat the fall essentially, and what we got to see instead was Junior as kind of in the weird way being the centerpiece of Gold Class in this match. And yeah, the fact that it brought me back to the start of the feud where it always was Junior being very aggressive and into the idea of second generation wrestlers, and Strong Machine J being very dismissive of him. And the fact that they went straight into this fact that Strong Machine J was like, yeah, no, I don't care about this guy. UT, you face him. Like, was really kind of wild. But the nice thing about this tandem and about Mochizuki Jr. and Gold Class is we now have the sneaky tag team of the undercard, and that's the class of 2019. Mochizuki Jr. Oh, it's not 2019, 2020. 2021. Mochizuki Jr. and Minorita, their insane chemistry that they already have together.
It's awesome, and I should note real quick, credit to BB Hulk. This was the absolute best Hulk performance you could ever ask for in 2024.
Hey, he went notebook.
That's the thing. I not only thought he did his job, I thought he did his job incredibly well in this match. This was above average level Hulk of what you would expect from him. I mean, I thought he was great in the match. I have no qualms with BB Hulk whatsoever.
And the idea that the closing stretch, Hulk got the first flash clean on Strong Machine J. He just went for it again, and Strong Machine J went, nope, we're not doing this. Machine suplex win. So it really kind of played into like Hulk actually like being on offense, Hulk feeling like a factor.
It was awesome. BB Hulk was a ton of fun in this match. He normally looks like he should have been in the 25th anniversary Gaiora match, but this was, a turn back the clock to not prime BB Hulk, but a turn back the clock to like 2017 BB Hulk, which I'll take. That's a ton of fun. I loved him. I thought he was great.
So right before Kai broke his neck is what you're saying.
Yes, which, believe it or not, as somebody who was already fragile to begin with, a broken neck made their mobility worse. As for Junior and Rita, look, this is, I think some funny business is going to happen with Gold Class. They have no titles. Minoura is clearly not going anywhere fast. I think we're going to see some shuffling with Gold Class. I think this unit's coming to an end. But I want Junior and Minorita glued at each other's hips going forward. What a fun pairing. These guys had a ton of chemistry with one another. And honestly, Junior's the guy that you and I want to focus on, and rightfully so, because Junior, to me, was the MVP of the match. But a credit to Minorita, because as Jay pointed out on commentary, he's only been back for six weeks now. His return match was in June at the June Corkin, and it's easy to forget how highly thought of he was before his injury, from not only the character presentation, but also the in-ring aspect. And an injury like that to a guy that size, given the way that he wrestles, it all could have gone away, and it all could have never been the same. But Minorita was phenomenal in this match, and the chemistry that he has with Shimizu is so interesting, because it's obviously the David and Goliath stuff, but it feels very fresh and very innovative, and they bring out the best in one another when they're doing those spots.
Yeah, and another credit to Rita, like over those 6 weeks, you remember his return, like our thought was like, hey, he's back and he's going to wrestle his way back into cardio shape. He has it all back. Like it maybe physically does not look the exact same way he did 18 months ago, but I would say 6 weeks off of the DL for a massive knee injury, he looks great. And that I feel like should be commended as well.
Oh my God, yeah. No, I mean, look, I thought he was fantastic in this match. The Hurricane Rana over the top rope
That was insane.
that sent Shimizu to the floor. I can't believe it worked. That's the thing that got me was, for those that didn't see it, it was like a poetry in motion, but he went over the top rope and then did a Hurricane Rana, and they stuck it clean. And I just, given the luck that Dragongate has had over the last 4 years, the fact that he didn't tear his other ACL doing that is the biggest victory of the entire show.
It was just and then you had the idea that Junior was the boost for that. That made that so cool.
It was great.
Yeah, and Junior's Fosbury flop dive that he lands on his feet every single time, considering the fact that he has a knee that I guess is just strained, but it does seem like this is going to be a constant thing. Is he's going to have this knee issue for the rest of his career? And he's landing these things clean. It's wild.
He does everything extraordinarily.
Yeah,
he's a phenomenal wrestler. 22. He's going to be in the Twin Gate match next year. The year after that, he'll be in the Dream Gate match. I don't know what to tell people. It's the biggest indictment on tastemakers right now is that not everybody has pegged him as the highest value prospect under 30.
Hey, he's the one that if you were doing a dynasty mode, he would be. We would have both in our leagues would have drafted him 2 years ago, and it would have just kept him on the minor leagues, and you just keep him because he's going to be it's going to pay off, and it'll pay off in a big way.
Is this where we talk about our college football 25 dynasties?
I mean, I kind of lucked out this weekend, Case, because of Kobe World and another stuff. My fiance and her family have a condo in Destin, and I was like, I have got work. I'll be able to come down later this week, but also it has allowed me to really work on improving some digital players' lives. Going in, I mean, these digital young men, I mean, we have to show them the ways of adulthood. And luckily for me, University of Texas at San Antonio has given me that platform to change lives, and it's been really important to me.
It's funny. I'm in a very similar situation. I moved into a new apartment on Monday, and my girlfriend moves in as of the time of this recording tomorrow. So I've been alone all week, and her mom's in town to help her pack. She's hired movers. She doesn't want me involved because I'm just going to do it wrong anyways. I've been alone for the last week, and Friday and Saturday, because unfortunately today I was really busy with Kobe World and a bunch of other stuff. But Friday and Saturday, I had a lot of time to myself. I will eventually dive deeper into the rough and go to some sicko school like you, but I started with SMU. Because I thought
Rhett Lashley, former King Great, yeah, I mean, there's the Fort Worth versus Dallas thing that we can talk about off air, but SMU, they're doing things.
I thought in the era of the transfer portal and NIL, let's get the Pony Excess, as the 30 for 30 was called. Let's get them back in the fold. Let's get them winning. If there was ever a school that is meant to thrive in this era of college football, it is them. I completed my first season about 10 minutes before we started recording, and I am very, very excited to get to season 2. It's a great game. I was so worried that recruiting was going to be 10 times more difficult than it is, and it feels, at least for me, it's the perfect challenge for me and the time I want to invest into it.
Yeah, you can completely automate it, or you can go okay, these are the guys I want to kind of focus on, and the game can expedite it, or you can get a lot more deep with it. And I feel
I'm really into it. I've got a 5-star running back coming in that I'm pretty stoked about.
In this first season, of course, I'm in the American, so it's just a cluster F right now.
Well, I learned SMU's in the ACC.
Hey,
which,
yeah.
What the fuck is that? So is Cal. What are we doing here?
I reset everything back to last year, and then I did things okay, let's be honest, West Virginia, you are more of an ACC team than a Big 12 team, yeah. And then Notre Dame, you should go to the Big 10. I know, I don't care. You're going to the Big 10. Things that just clean things up a little bit.
That's very smart. I like that. That's not a bad idea.
Pac-12, it's coming back, and who's good? They're going to be okay with the Mormons coming in. things like that.
How does the Pac-12 just not exist anymore?
Well, did you not see, like, okay, like we're way off, like, but that's fine. Like we talked about the important stuff. Did you not see a couple of weeks ago during like media days where like SEC did it in Dallas now, and that was a big deal. Then like ACC, everyone's just like, well, Florida State's doing dumb shit. What we're gonna do? The Pac-12, which still technically exists, they rented like the nightclub at the Bellagio, and they just had an open bar because the remaining commissioner with the two mascots was like, hey, if any conference deserves like to have a drink, it's the Pac-12.
It's absolutely sickening. There was the story going around from the college baseball super regionals, which was the last bit of the Pac-12, where the team store, I forget who hosted it, but the team store was selling everything with a Pac-12 logo on it for like $5. And I don't care about college sports. Neither of my parents graduated college. I didn't go to a school that had sports, so I don't have a dog in the fight. But how did we stray so far away from God's light that the Pac-12 essentially no longer exists? What happened?
I mean, well, the Pac-12 did some dumb things for like the past 20 years. But like, it's just like, and then you have the fact that now private equity decides that they want to get involved, in schools like Florida State think it's a great idea. It's just like so far beyond God's light, which, you know, is real. It is real kind of sad. You know what is in God's light though?
Real quick, and then we'll move on to something I really want to talk about.
I had a really good transition here, but
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to make sure you know about the story. Speaking of athletes and athletics doing dumb things, did you see the Caleb Williams story this week about him finally signing his Chicago Bears contract?
Yeah, didn't he like have it lasted forever and it just ended up being like just boilerplate?
Yeah, but it lasted forever because he was like, well, what if we create an LLC and you pay the LLC so I don't have to pay taxes? And they were like, no. And he's like, okay, what if you pay somebody else and they transfer me the money? Then I don't have to pay taxes. And they're like, no. It's like, all right, what if somebody who's based in Canada receives, it's like, what? No, just, you're going to have to pay taxes, Caleb Williams. I'm afraid he's actually too dumb to be a pro athlete.
I kind of like the idea that now we have a new quarterback who's just anti-tax.
Yeah, he is really anti-tax.
But you know what is in God's light? It is the Gate of Mayane happening. Great Okan and Benkei versus Shun and Bushi. This was announced. This was a special Kobe Sanbo Hall show coming up at the end of August. I think it's the 24th. That has a special guest general manager. So a wild match was announced after the Triangle.
Yes, I'm glad, because I actually didn't have this in my notes. I'm glad you remembered this. It should be super cool. I'm into it. You know, Ben and Great Okan are friends. Shun and Bushi, I believe, are friendly at the very least. Good, fun, more of this. This will make Kobe Sanbo Hall appointment viewing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Great Okan and Ben, they were not. I mean, Great Okan was like at a different level than Ben as Greco-Roman wrestling, but I think they were collegiate Greco-Roman wrestlers at the same.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So working our way back, so those were the 4 title matches that we had on the show. I would say, you know, 4 strong title matches, maybe not hitting the top end necessarily, like as like for like the Twin Gate as we were hoping, but what we got before this, the Gaora 25th anniversary celebration match, was one of those moments that is uniquely and solely and singularly just Dragongate at its core. Ultimo Dragon, Don Fuji, Susumu Yokosuka, Kagatora, Yasushi Kanda versus Masaki Mochizuki, Super Shisa, Kenichiro Arai, Genki Horiguchi, Komamao Ichikawa, with Choco Flake Keiichi. However, this then very quickly became a 6-on-5 match for various reasons, because Ultimo, after we had probably one of the most touching and emotional entrances since Ultimo's return in 2019, he decided to, before the match, kind of go to business for himself and change around what this match was, and Ryo Saito had to ascend.
I thought this was kind of beautiful. it's been hard to figure out exactly how I want to phrase this in my written review. So if I talk this out, maybe I can get to what I want to say. But there's something really nice about matches like this because we know that Mochizuki can still go at a high level, and we know Susumu can still go at a high level, and Arakin has found his corner of the internet that loves him, and rightfully so. But in a match like this, there's no expectation and there's no weight to it. And I I don't say this as an anti-Glate thing because I know we just work there, but like this applies to every promotion. When you bring in Kaz Fujita and try to do nostalgia that way, or you bring in Kendo Kashin and you try to do nostalgia that way, or you bring in Muto or Hase and try to do nostalgia that way, it can feel so gross and it can feel so heavy because it feels like it's leading to something. And you and I both know from doing this as long as that we have, and talking to people that have been in or around Dragon Gate the way that we do, unprompted, the word that is used time after time, whether it's been 1, 2, or 10, is family. And you see family on display here, and you see outside of Ultimo Dragon, egos checked at the door. And it's just something you don't get a lot of in wrestling. And that's not to mention the entrance and the match itself and the importance of this match, which I want to talk about in just a second. But for lack of a better term, just the vibes of this match, I thought were immaculate.
Yeah, and DG Family, like we the video clip that ended the show was called like Dragon Gate Family, and it does kind of seem like in the way that like this will still be like 25th anniversary year and all of that, but GG Family seems like it's going to be kind of like a trademark phrase going forward for the company, or like a rebrand kind of thing. But that was the vibe with this, and you had just like even just like the moments of like Ultimo's ego play saying like, oh, well, why is Shisa here? I thought we didn't need this guy around here anymore. Keiichi, why are you here? I mean, you technically can fight, so you dressed up, you can fight. I mean, you already have Ichikawa there, so I mean, you might as well add someone else there. Like even that is like uniquely Dragon Gate Family in its own way, and like with the moments like the like perfect rubber band attack, the longest one ever, to the few moments with Choco Flake in the match, the Romero special that he tried to pin, and then going even to the La Magistral cut back towards the end, and the moments of Ichikawa, because I feel like the moments of Ichikawa in a lot of these matches are really like the special Dragon Gate kind of magic at its core. And it just kind of all builds up to just like the perfect kind of like concluding moment, and something that like with how the undercard was constructed, there were only two things of consequence, and then they made sure that the other stuff there like served its purpose or accomplished something. And by making sure you had like three matches that had very like distinct and very like specified things, and then for the match that happened before this was only 77 seconds, so you were able to kind of have that kind of entrance where they all came out like jointly to episodes, and then separados played and all of that, and it just kind of creates this unique package that's totally Dragon Gate.
It was just nice. You know, there's not a lot of things in wrestling, for as much as we all love it, there's not a lot of things that are nice and that are tasteful. And these Dragon Gate nostalgia matches, which they started to hit on 5 years ago with the Kondo return and the Owashi return, and Sugawara was back, and then, you know, it all you know, it came to a head with the Ultimo comeback 5 years ago, which, by the way, that was 5 years ago. And then you see it now. You know, it's just nice. And that entrance, I spoke to a few different people that were at the show, and they were all unprompted, like, you know, that entrance made me cry, or the people around me were crying. Dragon Dia just sent out a tweet saying he was crying during that entrance, and it you know, it didn't move me to tears because it's wrestling and I have a bit of a wall there. But I started thinking about like this is the 9th Kobe World that I've reviewed for Voices of Wrestling, and we've been doing this show consistently as us two for a very long time, and Dragongate's been a part of my life for most of my life at this point, and I have friends because of Dragongate. You know, I consider you to be a friend, and I consider Alan to be a friend, and I have people at Voices of Wrestling that I like text and hang out with and see in Chicago, and it's great. And it all like, I don't know if this is weird or not, but it was a really nice moment. And I started to think about how important like these people are in my life. And it was very moving to see, because I care about these people to a point where it's like, I know somebody that lives in Kobe. It's like, well, tell me about Shisa's Taco Shop. I want to know more about that. I want to know about the micro indies that Arkin is working. And you think about like the level of dedication that people like us have to follow this and care about it. And it was a very nice match. And it's even talking about it now, I'm a little moved by it, because you just don't get this a lot in wrestling. And the other important thing is that 25 years is a long fucking time. And I don't think that like that's 1974 to 1999 or 1999 to now. And think about any other wrestling company. Think about New Japan in 1999 compared to now. Think about
Was
All
Inoki
Japan.
still wrestling in 1999?
He retired in 97, I think, but was around. It was
Right.
still Inoki's New Japan at that point. Think about any promotion in the world that's been around the last 25 years. Think about the changes in the overhaul and the change in presentation and the change in faces. And it's why, like, I don't know, I roll my eyes at some of the like, it's not the Dragongate that I once watched. It's like, I don't know, it fucking is. Like, compared to everybody else, their changes have been so minimal. And even if the faces are different, the thing that keeps me coming back is there's a spiritual through line from January 31st, 1999, in the first Toryumon show, to this match and Ben and YAMATO in the main event, that it just continues to go along. And I found this whole thing to be really touching in a way that wrestling oftentimes doesn't allow itself to be.
Just for context and just further illustrate your point there, Case. Do you know what the main event was for January 4th, 1999's New Japan Tokyo Dome show? Just so people can get like a frame of mind of where this company was. Just to further illustrate the point. Do you know what was the main event? Did you remember off the top of your head? Well, I have it pulled up for you. It's Keiji Muto defeating Scott Norton.
Fuck, that sounds bad.
The semi-main event, Tenkoji defeating Tenri and Koshinaka. The highlighted match was Hashimoto and Ogawa going to a no contest. Hashimoto and Ogawa in New Japan, third from the top in 1999.
Yeah, and then you look at the work that Susumu and Mochi continue to do, and it's just incredible. It's 20. The thing I always say is like, I've been alive as long as Toryumon's existed. Toryumon was January 31st, 1999. I was born February 12th, 1999. So I've been parallel to this promotion the entire time. And when I think about just the history of this promotion, it's so incredible. And I'm very thankful for it. I think it's enriched my life in many ways. And I don't know. I was just very moved by this. And on a personal note, it was a thrill to see Super Shisa back, because he was a ton of fun in this match. I wish there was more of him, but I don't know. I guess I made this point already, but it was really nice. And wrestling is oftentimes not nice. And I don't think any other promotion can do it quite like this. In America, there's either not the history or they're ignoring history, and this is just uniquely Dragongate. It was really I found the entrance specifically to just be very moving.
Yeah, Ichikawa and the Ina Bauer was when I was like, holy crap.
They should have had Stalker pin Ultimo. That is my one wish.
Yeah, like that would have been the thing. Is it's like out of the blue, the Ina, but that also would take Ultimo actually taking that bump.
Yeah, but 25 years, man. If you're ever gonna do it, or I'm still waiting on one last.
If you're ever gonna do it, it's never going to happen. You know, like that's the great thing. He's gonna tease that Asai Moonsault case. He's going
That
to.
was the greatest. I mean, literally, Ultima coming into Dragongate made me scared because I really wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Oh, read my article that I wrote.
Yeah.
Like trying to come to terms with that. Like
read my Dangerous Gate 2019 review where I just tear him to shreds.
That was a rough one. Yeah.
Was it Dangerous Gate? Yeah. Whatever. It was like him and Shisa and Kanda. No, it was like him and Shisa and Kness, and they went to a double count out on a pay-per-view show, and I gave it a dud and ripped it to shreds. But the positive in all of that is that he was teasing the Asai Moonsault every match, and every time it got me. It was just like, oh my god, this is going to be the time he's going to do it. And then he just never did it. The singles match with Eita, I was like, oh, is he going to do it now? Nope, never did it. So good.
Ultimo 40, he's going to tease it, and you're going to fucking bite.
Isn't it weird that Eita, like, at no point during the 25th anniversary of Dragongate were people like, hey, what if Eita showed up? It just never happened.
Eita was busy drawing not even 1,000 people to Cork and Hall.
Whew. I will watch that match though.
I have a lot of time for some things on this Pro Wrestling Noah show. It's just, I mean, when I said at the top of the show, no one did well yesterday, and I think that's something that we should all talk about when we talk about, okay, this Kobe World number. Noah did 903 people in Cork and Hall.
Yeah, like, and it looked like 900 at most. Right. It was giving 700 when I looked at the photo.
Yeah. Like how Dragongate's actually like giving 4,000.
And I'm not fucking counting chairs. Nobody get mad at me. I'm too busy to count chairs. I don't care if you did. They're so obnoxious about it. It's so hostile when it doesn't need to be. I'm not counting chairs at Kobe. I'm not counting chairs on a house show. I don't care about the screenshot of two totally different angles from two totally different shows. You're not pulling a fast one with the Dragongate attendance. It's inflated. We all fucking know. It's very annoying.
Yep, it is, but also look at what New Japan did. Look what everyone else did today. That's all I'm saying is it's just maybe like it's an industry thing, not just Dragongate thing.
Very much so. Do you have any other thoughts on the 25th anniversary? Just 25 years of Dragongate. I mean, that's, you are with me in feeling like that's maybe a little more impressive than people are letting on.
Oh, I mean, if you think about like when we've done our rewind and rewatch stuff, especially when we were talking about 1999 and Dragongate, that was right when like one of the big splits was happening at Michinoku Pro. Like you had like people then like started up Osaka Pro at that time. Like when we were talking about like how like a quarter century in wrestling, like for a company based in Hyogo, Kobe, Japan, like being able to be like that consistent when you have Michinoku Pro basically splintering 3 or 4 times like over that. When you have Osaka Pro on it, it's like basically, if you want to like look at like point to point, like that is a promotion that essentially was founded at about the same time as Dragongate, is on its 4th or 5th like de-evolution at this point, and like companies like Kyushu Pro and other just like indies in that regard, I would say like you look at Michinoku Pro being the first one outside of Kanto, and then you look at Dragongate, especially for how it is for Western Japan and what it's done in over 25 years, and that is something that has not really been either replicated or has been recognized, considering that they've done it as an independent promotion as well. I mean, DDT, for the fact of it, like always having like the indie kind of buzz, has been under Cyber Agent ownership for what, like almost 7 years at this point, it feels like.
It feels like that long.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, DDT was founded a couple of years before Dragongate, but they haven't been independent for the better part of a decade. But Dragongate keeps on.
I mean, even in the Lucharesu tree, Hamada's Universal was founded in 90 and is really only relevant
for 36 months.
And yeah, until the end of
93.
I mean, they exist until the end of 93. I would argue they're only relevant until the end of 91 when Ultimo jumps to CMLL and then SWS, but
You
have
still had like you still had like Masa Michinoku.
look.
and,
I'm not going to disparage Hamada's Universal. If you want to say 93, I'll say 93. As I'm not going to say anything bad about them.
But for like this exercise, giving them like the longer end of the timeline is actually serving our point here.
Yeah, Michinoku Pro, it's 93 to 97 when they're, relevant. Osaka Pro is maybe 2000 to 2004. There's no, and I'm glad you brought up the thing about DDT. DDT's had a corporate backing through a horrific time economically in Japan that Dragongate has not had. It goes back to, I always found it to be so interesting during the pandemic when people were running the bigger buildings just so they could sell more tickets, even if the buildings were only half full. We asked Jay, why does the Dragongate do that? He's like, well, because if we're expecting 5,000 in a 10,000 seater and we only draw 2,000, we're fucked. We'll go out of business. We don't have the leverage, or not the leverage, but rather the comfort, the padding that other promotions do. This is still, it's the same company that it was in 1999, even if some of the investors are different. It's the same ideology, and it's just an incredible thing. And I kind of wish, Dave's kind of the only guy that really does this now. It's, I wish more people would take note of it. I think it's an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to be like a weird aside, but I think you'll get where I'm going with this. Did you ever watch any of Heels?
I did not.
But like you know what the concept behind it, right? Like it was the idea of like somehow there was a territory that existed in rural Georgia into the 2010s like that, and it was like the whole idea about creating this mythos about running like sub national wrestling, and in a lot of ways, like I think there's actually a much better story that could have been told, and if you would adapt it, and it would be about Dragongate. Because you have this company that through its like trials and tribulations and like the fact that it really kind of is, for lack of better terms, like the most professional wrestling cooperative that exists in the world. And it has like this 25 years of kind of doing that in its own unique kind of thing without any sort of catch net. Like even All Japan has a corporate owner or is a part of like a owner who has like a corporation with that. Like that's just not what happens here with Dragongate. And it's like in its weird way, like it's a more remarkable story than like the fictional story that was told in Heels, and that's trying to kind of tell the same kind of story that Dragongate actually.
Very much so. I like that. I think you're absolutely right.
So match 3, we had Yosuke Santa Maria and La Estrella versus Kai and Ishin. It was the cookie sheet Jinchu on Maria in a minute 17. We did kind of learn some Maria news here that's kind of worth noting. Maria is now, Yosuke is now kind of moved to the part-timer position of the roster. I didn't know about the car accident that Jay brought up.
No, neither did I. And it was so early in the morning that I was still like, pre-title matches. I was locked in. I was taking notes, but I wasn't hearing everything Jay was saying. And he's just telling that story. I go, I wonder if I'm hearing this right. I don't know anything about this. I'm glad Maria's okay. That's awful.
Right, but like because of the injury and just like all of it, it's unlikely that Maria is going to become a full-time touring wrestler. And this match, minute 17, we knew that this is where they were going to kind of carve back time on the show. Any thoughts you had on that?
No, I love the Ishin and Kai thing. I wish they would give them a title match.
Right. 8-man tag, Takashi Yoshida, Mondai Ryu, Punch Tominaga, Ho-Ho Lune versus Sachioka Boy, and the young guys, Ryo Fuda, Daiki Yanagiuchi with new gear, and Ryoya Tanaka new gear. It was Ryoya Tanaka getting the win on Mondai Ryu in this one. It was the Survive in 4 minutes and 17 seconds, and it was treated like a pretty big win for the young guy side.
Yeah, look, mark my words. This will be the least important Kobe World match Ryoya Tanaka has for the next decade.
So
it'll be Bravegate next year and just title matches going forward. I feel pretty strongly on that.
No, I'm totally with you on this, and this was really the display of Fuda and Yanageuchi and Tanaka. The Survive, for those who are wondering, it is his head scissors cradle. So mark that down for that. And worth noting, Yuki Yoshioka was on commentary, Japanese commentary on this. He was in Daya's corner. So we see that Yoshioka, he's not exactly touring, but he is kind of getting back in the fold a little bit.
Do you think when he eventually comes back, he should turn heel right away?
I'm too much of a Yoshioka fan. I like him as a face, actually.
I know, I do too, but I've been predicting for 2 years now that he's going to go heel, and I need it to happen at some point.
I think, though, that, like, you did the whole Inferno thing, and I think that's still so fresh. Like, even though that was, like, we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of 12/1/2021, I still kind of feel like he still has some clock before he can.
Interesting. All right. I'm on. I guess they're doing with Shun and Jason what I thought they would do with Shun and Yoshioka. They're basically doing that story just with Jason instead, and I'm very satisfied with that. So I will leave it be, and I will let D Courage be happy for the time being.
Hey, I mean, eventually things will go to hell. Like, that is a unit that is, like, designed to have, like, some major heartbreak happen.
Oh, a catastrophic breakup when it does indeed happen.
I mean, maybe Daya and his utility belt needs to put some tissues in there just in case. Our opener case, the special singles match, Madoka Kakuta versus Kota Minoura. Rolling lariat out of a rolling high knee. This was just under, I think, I'm trying to look what the official time on it was. It was just over 10 minutes, and it was kind of just pedal to the floor all throughout there, with Kakuta just kind of beating up Minoura. It rocked.
I didn't think this match was any good. I did not like this. I thought this was so flat, and it was kind of worst case scenario for both guys, because Kakuta obviously didn't light the world on fire last year at World, and Minoura in his history at World has been spoken about a million times. I thought they wrestled like they weren't good enough to be on a stage this big. I was so disappointed in this match.
Is it just like the Minoura zombie kind of?
No, because I'm into what they're doing with Minoura. I thought they were both just flat. I didn't think they brought it. I didn't think they projected well. I didn't think this had the same energy that the other Minoura openers, whether it was the Kano match that I really liked, or the junior match that we loved, or even the Ishin match from a week ago. I didn't think it had that energy or that urgency. You're right, they closed with a bunch of big moves. I liked the final 30 seconds, but man, I did not like this match much at all.
So really, you had Kakuta just kind of bullying around, and then, like, essentially get more and more frustrated to the point where he kind of snapped a little bit, was doing like his walking into him, and that kind of like led into like a jumping high in a R301. Like, Minoura went through all of his offense, but it was done like in a manner that just did not have, it had intent, but did not have like actual emotion behind it. But I think like really like the last 45 seconds with Kakuta bullying going into that was like the highlight here. I kind of feel like that Kakuta, it has like been done a little bit of a disservice in a way. That like he loses his title in December in kind of a lame kind of manner, and there was really, the cycle down was like so immediate that like I kind of want to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in a way. But I see where you're coming from for that though. Like, this is a match that I feel like you can come away with two different just impressions in that way.
Yeah, that's a fair point on Kakuta. I do wonder what his next step is,
because he's done absolutely nothing. Like, the plot point ends at Final Gate. Like, there's no follow up since then. Like, just like how Daya was adrift without Yoshioka, D Courage really did not do a single thing up until the Best of the Super Junior this year.
You're right. I am curious to see what they do with him. You know, we didn't really explore the Kakuta Yoshioka tag team. We haven't really explored the Kakuta Tanaka tag team. But I don't know if that's the direction. I think they might just be continuing to wait idly by, because you have Big Hug, who obviously has momentum. You have Vibes, who continue to kill it. And even if Paradox are tweeners, they're going to lean face more often than not. It's just the company has passed D-Courage by, and it's why I kind of lean towards like, hey, maybe we should turn Yoshioka heel and break these guys up, because I'm just not sure what purpose they serve at this point, even if they're all still incredibly talented.
Yeah, it's like also like you look at Tanaka right now, and like Tanaka getting that win against and the 8-man tag in that manner. It's like, okay, like this is Tanaka, like his first big match at Kobe World, like on the main card, and he's getting like his first like win in that audience. Like it feels like you're like, okay, that's where he should be at, but like now he's going to be kind of teaming with the remainder of his team instead of like taking that step. It's in a way, I wonder how much like everything, like maybe Yoshioka is turning and everyone has to spin their wheels to do that turn, because that is because if that's the justification for D-Courage as like a 3-man group doing nothing in 2024 until Best of the Super Juniors, then at least that's justification for it. It might not be good justification, but at least there's logic there, because if there's not, then what have they done really to Madoka Kakuta since losing the Dreamgate? They go winless in Rey de Parejas. What sense then, Case?
The tricky part is you can get rid of Gold Class and you can get rid of D-Courage and you can do some shuffling there. There's nobody in Z-Brats that I want to see turn right now. Now, Kai would be next up on the list.
But you have Yokohama.
Exactly. And I mean, look, maybe that's not a problem. Maybe he can turn face in September. There's no great rush to get Kai to be a babyface again, but he has been a heel for 4 years now. So he's due for a face turn. But Z-Brats, I've always liked them more than most, but I think universally everybody's really on board with Z-Brats right now. There's nobody there that you really want to pull away. Ishin's not ready, Shun's not ready, Jason's not ready. They're on the right
core.
Yeah, they're on the right track, all of them. But that's kind of the problem. Is it's like, well, okay, let's say Minoura turns heel, then you've got a really stacked heel unit, and then what are you gonna do? Also turn Yoshioka heel, and then you're just gonna do what? Minorita and Junior and Tanaka and Daya and Kakuta, like that's it. I don't know how those parts all shift, because I think Gold Class and D-Courage desperately need to be shaken up, but the other units don't. I want them to stay the same, and I just don't know what you do with that.
Well, I guess the counter is you listed all the people you liked in Z-Brats. Is it them as Z-Brats that you like, or just the 3 working together? Because I feel like you're able to, because now where that group's at, you need a young guy in there. They need a Lost Post. Like as for right now, like they were able to really elevate up Ishin, and Jason is where he is, but like it where they are as a unit, this is not a early days heel unit. This is a late days heel unit. And the core's still great, and the core will exist. It's just like we need to kind of move on from that, because like the other guys that need the positions, like Daiki needs a position. Fuda, who knows when Fuda, as soon as they say that Fuda is ready, like he needs that spot. And I think that's one of those like facets that's going to make the year, and especially the way that the schedule is this year. With looking ahead, they have this weekend, they have their summer festival in Sambo Hall. That's a little bit more of a light-hearted card, but I mean, the company will be off for the next, like essentially up until this Cork and Hall show, where you have D-Courage versus Z-Brats. And that
they've got a Kobe show next week.
That's the fan festival one.
Yeah,
that's not like the most canon. Like they will have matches, but this is the one where like they do like stalls and they do games, and it's like more of like an outdoor kind of thing in the lead up to the show.
Did they do this in Osaka last year?
They've done this in Osaka. They Genki's Homecoming used to always have this kind of festival vibe like that they do with this year. And
I
they've done
feel
it
like
at
that
Art
drew a
Center,
good
too.
house when they did it in Osaka. Like, it got a noticeable uptick.
Mhm.
You know what's a bummer is that we just had this nice feel-good segment with Jay last week about Estrella and how happy he is to just travel the globe. This is where you really wish Estrella would just stay in Japan and be an above average problem dragon, so he could be the Lost Post and Z-Brats. I feel like that could help so many different things if he was just there as a
Right.
low-level heel that never has to win.
Yeah, I mean, because and even if it's something, it's like, oh, you do 6 months here, low level healing, and then whatever you want to go do in Mexico and the States, nope, go right ahead.
Yeah,
You know?
it just I almost
Or
wish
give
he'd
us the
stick
next
around.
give us
just
6 months. Give
yeah,
us 6 months.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, like they really like it's the it's not the rookies that are the issue, it is the fact that there's just not that second step, third step rookies, because those second or third step rookies are your Mochizuki Juniors and your Minoritas that are on their own completely different path into themselves.
Very much so.
Well, that was Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival case. Interesting show, 25th anniversary. We had some really high moments, I would say. Yamato's promo, the DG family clip, the 25th anniversary match, and we still have, a lot of big questions going forth with Dragongate to close out their 25th anniversary. Or I guess, like, as a way to kind of conclude this episode, 5 years, 10 years from now, what do you think will be the moment from the 25th anniversary Kobe World Show that we will still be talking about as like, okay, that's what happened at the 25th anniversary show?
And it's got to be the Yamato show closing promo. He moved me, and I don't speak the language, and Jay wasn't translating every word, but it got me back on board with Yamato as champion, and I think visually it's something I'll remember for a long time.
I think if it's not going to be that, for me, it's going to be that Gaora 10-man tag. I just think because of getting Shisa back and like Ichikawa not being around this year, and having especially that generation, like those 10 guys, like, because like who's to say 5 years, 10 years, what's going to be the status of the veteran army, but at least in that one night, like you got to, if this is the farewell, you got to have the farewell that it deserved, and it got the time and the intention that really that to show that first generation of Toryumon, I feel like is that it was the perfect thing to do at the perfect time.
Very much so. I'm with you.
And that's going to do it for us this week on Open the Voice Gate. We'll be back with you soon. I mean, we still have our July rewind and rewatch thing that we did not do. That we'll figure this out with them going dark. We'll post about this in the Discord and
we'll
on
give you
Twitter.
2 in August. I've got some August ideas.
Yep. All right. Well, we got some August stuff coming up for y'all, but that's going to do it for us this week. You could follow Case at @ in your case, the written Kobe World review coming out in the next few days, and you can follow me at @ or not _ at sign Fujiheya, and then you can follow us both at Open Voice Gate. Thanks for listening to us, and we'll catch you next time on Open the Voice Gate. Take care.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if 2 people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.